Last time on One Piece, first impressions. Oden is really cool. I'm cool. He's cool. Also, Joy Boy. I don't think he's cool at all. I'm clinically insane. We're the cool ones now. Hey, hey, hey. I'm cool too. Right, everyone? Right? Freeze frame. Don't say freeze frame, just do it. Wano Act 3 Part 2. I promise you, it feels just as convoluted for me as it does you, but there's just so much going on in this act that I have to break it out into separate videos. Today, I'll be covering everything from the quest to get up to that precious roof, up through the quest to get back up to that precious roof. We're roof people now. Accept it. I have also been forced by the hand of Eneru to do something I've resisted for nearly 2 years now. Switch to the manga. I regret nothing about my past experience, but goddamn, was it nice to just breeze through 9 chapters without a plethora of padding. Just a true delight. Anime only, folks, don't worry. The bulk of this video will be anime talk, but I'll be sure to give you fair warning when I get to the manga section. Although, by the time this video comes out, a good chunk of what I'm talking about will likely have been adapted, so use your best judgment. With that disgusting amount of focus on me over and done with, let's move on to some of the most insane straw hat battling and world building since any slobby. Let's talk about Tobbi. No, not that Tobbi. Tobbi Roppo. I didn't really go into detail about them in my last video because I had a hunch they'd be taking center stage in this middle section, and boy was I right. This entire video will be about the rise and fall of the Tobbi Roppo, intermixed with some mind-boggling bouts of rooftop glory. When Oda introduced us to these little Tobbis, it was made clear right away that they all had some beef, and there were hints at who wants to backstab who, especially from Who's Who. Having X-Drake as an undercover super spy only added to the drama and fueled my inner detective trying to figure out what was going to happen. I thought it was an awesome idea to essentially have the CP9 agents from Enies Lobby also have their own scores to settle during the conflict. Needless to say, I fell for the twist, hook, line, and sinker. Who's Who tricks Drake into attacking Queen, but this turns out to be some crazy 3D chess move to beat information out of Drake on who he's working for. He should have seen that coming. I assumed he had some excuse ready for why he let Law escape from prison, but I guess he was just hoping no one would bring it up. Not a great plan. Drake busts out of there and reflects on the words of his sweet boy, which leads him to seek an alliance with Luffy. Naturally, it goes smoothly since Luffy doesn't give a shit about anything. Welcome aboard, Dino Dude! Speaking of Luffy, within a minute span, Kyo compared him to the Fire God twice, really beating us over the head, so I knew it had to mean something. And, based on what we learn later, it seems like a lot of the mythology in this world is connected. Up on that beautiful, gorgeous rooftop, we see that Jack's forces and the Sulong Minks fought until both sides were decimated. Not to worry though. Dogstorm and Cat Viper, now transformed and looking mangy as all hell, fuck up Jack personally in an absolute brutal beatdown. Kaido actually has to step in because he doesn't just want to watch his precious subordinate get pummeled to death. So, Whittle Jack waddles off with his tail between his legs. Pretty solid revenge for what went down on Zoe. Eat shit, stooge! The Akazaya 9's last group moment was so incredibly badass that I did not expect much more from them, but goddamn was I a fool. This fight went beyond my imagination to showcase just how badass these dudes truly are. Kinemon's random, unexplained flame rend ability is the most helpful thing in the world against Kaido. He slices through his blast breath, no problem, and the samurai all go at Kaido in an excellent showcase of how far the animation has come in 25 years. These guys are not fucking around. They're hardcore, and that's so refreshing. Raizo, of all people, got in a crazy sick reverse card hit on Kaido that blew me away. This whole fight was such a grand spectacle that it got me wondering how the eventual final battle with Kaido was going to look if this was already so insane. We start to get some insight into Kaido's headspace during this battle. This man is obsessed with Oden as much as the samurai are. He reflects on Roger, Oden, and Whitebeard's deaths, lamenting how they went out perfectly. He then says that he believes death brings humans completion. So does he feel he lacks purpose? The dude clearly wants to die, but claims the samurai are merely a shadow of their lord who cannot reopen his scar. Then he blasts Kiku's arm off.
Hell yes! I mean, sorry, Kiku. Still incredibly badass, though.
Does Kaido want to die to feel like his story has an ending? I mean, when comparing your sluggish life of drinking in a dark cave to the glorious ends of glorious men, I can see why he would begin to yearn for more out of life. But is he just waiting for someone to finally strike him down? He's a surprisingly passive character if his true goal is a satisfying death. Forget that for now. It's been too damn long. Far too long since the Straw Hats engaged in the classic tactic of the Straw Hat split off showdown. You know the rules. The Straw Hats split up into individual or two-person teams and systematically engage all the main goons around the area while Luffy deals with the big bad boy. It's a tried and true strategy dating back to Arlong Park that hasn't been implemented on this scale since Fishman Island. But we're back, and the showdowns are shaping up to be quite exciting. First up, special shout out to that Gorilla Fist guy. I have nowhere else to say that, but he couldn't go unrecognized. Today, we've got one hell of a lineup. Nami and Usopp versus Ulti and Page 1. Wanda and Carrot versus Paris Sparrow. Lick. Zoro and Drake versus Scratchman and Queen. Sanji versus Black Maria, with a twist. Jinbei versus Who's Who. Chopper versus an Ice Ogre transformation virus. Let's get ready to rumble! On the performance floor, Queen has begun transforming friend and foe into Ice Ogres. This causes quite the issue, as not only can these ogres infect others, but once they burn up their energy, they die. Chopper, being the only moral scientist in this series, decides he's gonna cure that plague. For some reason, Queen completely screwed over Scratchman and everyone else by giving him the cure. Why did he do this? It isn't made explicitly clear, but it doesn't seem like he has any specific beef with him. They actually seem to be rave buddies. I think this is just showing how Queen, and by extension Kaido, do not value those that they feel are beneath them. Zoro, who didn't trust Drake at first, for good reason, has decided to team up with him over their mutual hatred of Scratchman. So that freaky piano-faced fool is fucked, especially when Zoro gets serious after seeing Kiku's arm fall through the roof, and one-shots him. Chopper tells him he already figured out how the virus works, and Zoro smiles and says, "That's my man." Fuck, dude. Gonna cry. The world's smallest callback to their exchange in Long Ring Long Land sniped me through the heart. To keep things under control while Chopper puts together his antidote, Marco the God saves the zombie day by heating everyone up with his Phoenix Flames. He's so damn cool. I love how when Nami and Usopp are running from Ulti and Page 1, Usopp literally turns to Nami and tells her it's time for the split-off showdown. Like, enough goofing around, we all know it's coming, so let's just get it over with. I respect it. As much as I appreciate a good pairing, there's nothing quite as satisfying as a one-on-one battle for the less action-oriented crewmates. And this was such an excellent showing for Nami. Ulti really messes her up, which makes sense considering what a hard time she was giving Luffy earlier. This is the most brutalized Nami has ever been. She's nearly beaten to death by Ulti's headbutts. And as weird as it is to say, I appreciated this so much. Usually, Nami barely gets hurt, even in her fights, and as she's become more of a straight-up wizard, she's gotten further and further from any genuine combat damage. Welp, not here. Not on Onigashima. It's interesting that Usopp takes even more graphic bashing, but that's played for comedy. He doesn't really have much interesting going on in the section, other than comedic relief. In fact, it was awesome seeing Usopp's limitless supply of random weapons finally be ineffective again. I was hoping this would lead to some clever strategy from him, but no, they just flat out lose, which was also nice to see. Ulti, being the most annoying woman in Wano, demands Nami say that Luffy isn't going to be the king of the pirates, and we all knew exactly how this would shake out, but it still hit right where it needed to. You can feel Nami wanting to say that so badly to save her own life, but she just can't bring herself to do it. When she says she knows he will be, I cried instantly. I'm a sucker, okay? Meanwhile, Carrot has heard the sickly sweet sounds of Paris Sparrow, Lick, and rushed after him, driven by her need to get revenge for Pedro's death. I was not expecting a near Gon-like rage transformation freakout from Carrot, but this was a great moment for her. I've been hard on Carrot in the past, but she's really growing on me with this revenge story. It feels like she finally has something unique to do. Wanda takes her hand and talks Carrot out of that dark freakout, and the pair decide to take on the Candy Boy together. I was extremely excited for this conflict, and extremely disappointed by its conclusion, but we'll get back to the showdowns in a bit. Now, let's check in on the others. Yamato, Momo, and Shinobu are paired up for a surprisingly long time, and it was interesting seeing the children of Kaido and Odin bonding like this. But it made me think, where the hell is this Yamato being Odin thing going? Is he gonna kill his father as some fitting end for the both of them? This family has such a strange obsession with Odin that those infatuations have to cross in a meaningful way. Anyway, when Momo and Shinobu are under attack, Yamato shows his resolve as an ally and defends them. Here, we come to understand some of why Yamato is the way he is. He was there when Odin died and heard Shinobu's revelations about how he lived his life. On that day, he rushed to save Momo from the castle, but was too weak. Yamato worships Odin like he's the Messiah, as if he watched Christ die, and now he identifies as Christ. Ian. It's really not much different than a religious identification. He is Odin, he asks what would Odin do, and does it because of his beliefs. This is a truly damaged individual, and one of the top questions of Act 3 is what the hell will happen with Yamato once Kaido is defeated. Hey! Frankie's here for his designated Straw Hat Showdown. He allows the trio to escape while he takes on the Armored Squad and Sasaki, a fitting battle for the Iron Pirate. Meanwhile, the Yamato reveals about Odin don't stop coming. He believes that Momo is going to lead the world to the dawn. At least, that's what it seems like the real Odin thought. Can that be true? Was I wrong to assume Luffy was Joy Boy, and it's really Momo? I feel like it has to be Luffy, but then why do this? As the battle with Kaido rages on, hopefully we're getting closer to some real answers. Back on that handsome rooftop, it turns out that Kaido took out all the samurai, and he begins flying Onigashima toward the flower capital. I guess he could just always do this. Now there's really no escape. A good old ticking time bomb is always good for these climaxes. All the best ones have it. It's part of the formula, but it works so well. There are a couple elements that build to the glorious episode 1015 that I want to talk about. Firstly, we get the Yamato Ace backstory that's been hinted at for a while. This comes in two parts. The first part of them meeting didn't really do anything for me. For a minute there, I thought that was all there was gonna be, and I felt let down, but that second part was too good. This is yet another example of the seeming inevitability of Luffy's arrival at Wano. Having read Odin's journal and heard Ace's life story, Yamato immediately pieces together that Roger and Luffy are the same, and my theory from my last video is further emphasized here that Ace, Odin, Sabo, and Whitebeard are echoes of each other too. I completely forgot this, but Ace and Odin were also both the 2nd Division commanders for Whitebeard. This flashback was really supposed to hammer home Yamato's connection to Ace, but frankly, I really don't care about that at all. Everything else was more interesting. Like Luffy's mysterious dream. On the flip side, we see that before the raid, Law tried to get some answers about the people of D from Robin, who admits she has no idea what it's all about. Law finds a poneglyph within Kaido's base and reflects on the meaning of his name, wanting to know the reason he has to live a checkered life. Between this and his conversation with Sengoku at the end of Dressrosa, it's clear his name is very important to him. I'm glad someone with the name D is actually curious what the hell it all means. I guess whenever we do find out, Law is gonna have to be at the center of it all, since this seems to be his driving motivation moving forward. Up on that alluring rooftop, Big Mom joins Kaido over the numb husks of the samurai, and their antagonistic relationship continues, but in a weird sibling way. Turns out why Kaido owes Big Mom is because she gave him a mythical fish fruit when the Rocks pirates fell apart. Well, Kaido's a dragon, and as we'll see later, Yamato isn't some fish, so who'd he give that fruit to? The backstory on the Rocks pirates is key to understanding the secrets of this world. But enough thinky brain stuff. It's time for spectacle. Holy shit. Episode 1015 is the best produced episode of One Piece ever. Everything looked amazing with Ace and Yamato, but when it gets to that sexy rooftop, just wow! I realize this episode is the adaptation of Chapter 1000, which explains why this one felt like it hit so hard. Even harder than Episode 1000. Kid, Killer, Law, and Zoro assemble before Kaido and Big Mom. Luffy arrives last, but joins at the head of the group. This is the squad right here. The two monsters begin mocking the younger generation, specifically taunting Luffy about his dreams, but he walks straight between them to check on the samurai. They're all in rough shape. Kinemon's spirit is crushed since he was unable to avenge his friend's death, and he begs Luffy to carry the land of Wano on his back, which of course he will, for his friends. Kaido comes up behind them, Law teleports the samurai away, then Luffy smashes Kaido with his new move, the Red Rock, after a gorgeous montage of everything leading up to this point. He then declares to both Emperors of the Sea that he's Monkey D. Luffy, and he's the man who will be the king of the pirates. Does it get better than this? The fight between these 7 monsters begins, and I still love the Luffy, Law, and Kid dynamic so much. Law goes so far as to scold Luffy for ordering him around, which is just classic Captain Ego clashing at its finest. Of course, all 3 end up taking full-blown attacks from Big Mom to prove how tough they are. With their captains measuring the distance of their piss, Zoro and Killer decide to try and be useful. They each land a solid hit on Kaido, but there's no real damage. That's pretty much the theme of this fight from the beginning. The only one who is hurting Kaido is Luffy, and for some reason, no one attacks Big Mom at all. Soon enough, everyone else is down except Luffy, who takes Zeus's electricity, because of course he does, but then he also takes Kaido's fire breath. His excuse is that he's immune to fire because of his guts.
Hold the fuck up. No! And also, why has he had fire powers since the time skip? I've assumed it's been hockey-based, but this sudden immunity, combined with Hyo's comments, make me think this has nothing to do with courage. I mean, I guess I could be wrong in this world, but I like to believe immunity doesn't have anything to do with just how hard you believe in yourself. We'll get back to this.
So Luffy pummels Kaido with his Kong Gatling, but can't finish him off because 4th gear expires. So I guess it still does do that. With these boys on the back foot, now's a good time to see what's going on elsewhere. We have some new players making their presence known during the battle. Turns out, CP0 has been here the entire time. How are they gonna play into all this? It's unclear, but they seem pretty eager to just let both sides kill each other, so likely they'll be chilling in their room until everyone is beaten bloody. These guys give me the creeps. Also, Otama has arrived. She saves Nami and Usopp, and they help her with converting all the gifters into her servants. This is really going to turn the tide of the battle, but it did feel a bit too easy. Right when Otama was introduced, I think it was fairly clear that her powers would be a massive hack in defeating Kaido's forces. She can only control Smile Fruit users, but that's like everyone but a dozen people. So, while I do enjoy this strategy, it did feel like the most obvious and easy maneuver that someone could have predicted from the very, very beginning. Now, Sanji. After Whole Cake Island, I'm sure everyone was eager to see how this new Sanji would play into the crew dynamic. Dealing with this weird sexual harassment spider thing was not at all what I imagined nor hoped for. During this whole split-off showdown, he's really been useless. Black Maria and her gaggle of goons have been toying with him, he's been strung up by Black Maria and beaten so that he would lure Robin into a trap, which he does. And the more I think about that, the more I actually like it. It's very rare for a character in the series to call out for help, especially one of the tough guys, and Robin even thanks Sanji for relying on her. Our girl ain't no dum-dum, and easily sees through Black Maria's trap. I have a lot more to say about how this fight goes down, because we've never seen Robin in a one-on-one smackdown like this, and I was really excited to see her devilish side. Another fight that I was excited about kind of ends in a whimper. Carrot puts up a good fight against Perospero, Lick, but ultimately Wanda is defeated, and when Carrot exits her Sulong form, she is also destroyed. Come on, I was just Come on! I want to root for Carrot here. Stop making this so hard for me. Back on the performance floor, the ice ogre thing has spiraled out of hand. Hyogoro got his huge bod back, but was infected and is just about to get his tiny little head severed when Chopper saves the day with this antidote and absolutely bitch slaps Queen, finally declaring to everyone that he's not a raccoon. Our hero! Similar to Tama's scheme, Chopper, actually not wanting everyone to die, gets the pleasures and waiters to turn on Queen. Maybe this is a good reason to not shout at your subordinates and call them useless and worth less than trash in the middle of a war. Overall, great showing for Chopper. Meanwhile, the Kazuki allies have been encountering a few twists that keep their lives anything but dull. We find out from CP0's backroom gossip that Momo's experimental devil fruit was actually derived from Kaido's. That raises some interesting questions.
Why did Vegapunk even have access to Kaido's juice? Does the world government have the bloodline elements of a lot of powerful pirates? We've seen that cloning technology does exist in this world. Also, this really adds fuel to the fire that an inevitable Dragon v Dragon showdown is going to go down, which I've been preaching about for a while, but we'll get back to that later, because Odin's here. The Akazaya 9 wake up after being transported by Law, with their wounds mysteriously treated. And none other than Kazuki Odin shows up to greet them. Sweet! The day is saved because there's no way this could possibly be a trap. Oh, what the fuck? Creepy Lips Chondro is back, up to the same old shit, and I couldn't have been less excited for his return. I'm about to get into some real nitpicking, so brace yourself. Ashura sacrificed himself to stop Doodle Odin's dynamite suicide bomb, right? I hate that plot point. If Chondro could just draw extremely powerful explosives, then he should be unstoppable. It opens the question about how far his drawing powers actually go. Like, if he drew the sun, would it have the power of the actual sun? I tend to doubt it. But, more applicable to this situation, why not just draw a dozen walking bomb men instead of going for some lame fake out that shouldn't even work on these grown adults? Oh no, Orochi's back! Oh, I spoke too soon. I'm sure he still isn't dead though. Back on that beautiful, sexy, gorgeous rooftop, things are getting banana nut muffins. A lot of good Zoro bits here that I can't help but appreciate. Firstly though, Kaido's man-beast form looks dope. I like the dragon form, but I feel like it's almost too much. And it's tough to showcase battles like we're used to, so this was a nice balance. With the Emperors no longer messing around, they launch a dual attack that seems like the same Elbaphian move Big Mom used previously. If so, the Rocks Pirates must have had some connection to the Giants. Zoro manages to actually block it, which is completely nuts, although it isn't easy. Once the Worst Generation gets their second wind, the fight gets intense. Luffy versus Kaido is dope, and how can anyone not love the part when Kid and Law launch Luffy back at him? Say what they will, it's clear who the top dog around here is, and it ain't the dudes throwing the other guy into the action. Throughout this fight, I haven't liked that none of it has been directed toward Big Mom. It made her feel really superfluous, which I get to some extent since this is Kaido's arc, but still, she's an emperor too. That finally changes in episode 1026, when the boys finally start beating on that poor old lady, and what do you know? They divide and conquer her soul boys, then push her ass to the ledge and drop her off. We're nearing the point where Big Daddy Denny did the old switcheroo, which means it's time for my first ever anime versus manga comparison. I was actually steaming mad when in the anime, Prometheus flew into the sea to rescue Big Mom from drowning. I could be wrong, but as far as I'm concerned, devil fruit controlled beings should lose their sentience when they go into the sea. That's 100% bullshit, and I was furious. But in the manga, that doesn't happen. We just cut to Big Mom being caught by Prometheus down below. My anger, it's slipping away. What is this feeling? Logical consistency? Is this a trick? Is everything going to be okay? I don't have to shout or pout? Why do I feel so free.
Zoro busts out Ashura and gives Kaido his biggest boo-boo yet. I'm so glad we got to see this power again. What's it been? 700 plus episodes? Nice to see you again, weirdo! This attack actually convinces Kaido that Zoro possesses the color of the Supreme King, which is really interesting. Zoro claims he doesn't know what Kaido's talking about. I can't tell if it means he doesn't know what that is in general, or about himself. If Zoro and Luffy have this, what exactly does that mean? Could Luffy actually train Zoro a bit? I feel like that dynamic would be hilarious, and now that's all I want to see. You can picture it perfectly, can't you? Luffy up in Zoro's training room, trying his hardest to be a wise old master. What a life. What's this? A dream? Why is it so bright? Oh my god, Law and Zoro are down! Episode 1028 features some gnarly intense action as Luffy lays the smackdown on Kaido after finally mastering Ryuo, I think. It's tough to know with all the aura and different hockey types, but I think maybe he used it while infusing himself with the color of the Supreme King? I don't know, but the animation was awesome, and the sound mixing was very different than usual too. The attacks were almost silent, since Luffy isn't technically making contact with Kaido, and that's just a really nice touch. The tide has turned. Big Mom's got a sassy new Lady Cloud, Kid and Killer are chasing her down, whereas Luffy thanks Zoro and Law for their help, but tells them to head downstairs. He'll handle Kaido alone. Back inside the facility, Otama's converted nearly every gifter to their side, but she isn't done turning people traitor. Big Mom goes mother mode with her young friend, and I'm so glad this actually paid off. This reunion was set up perfectly back in Act 2, but I didn't see it coming, even when Tama steps up to confront Big Mom. There really is a tender side to this large mama. When she finds out that Okebore Town was burned by Kaido's people, and Suru was killed, she flips out and wrecks page 1, blasting a hole through the floor with what looked like Ryuo right before Ulti's eye. Uh-oh, it's sister versus mother in this pirate civil war. Nami and Usopp being caught in the middle have absolutely no idea what to do, and I love how Nami tries, and fails, to get on both Big Mom and Ulti's sides. However, once Ulti hurts Otama, all bets are off. Nami actually gets dark, unable to back down from this fight, and this was fantastic. It's a subtle callback to her own past, and her deep hatred for those who would hurt children, and it's just a generally vicious and badass moment for a character who has those very rarely. Unfortunately, she's not able to do much, but Big Mom drills a hole through Ulti using the combined forces of her soul weapons. The new Cloud, Hera, is proving to be quite the asset. Sorry Zeus, you're fucked! The fight between Kaido and Luffy reaches a turning point. Episode 1033, the last episode before I switched to the manga, features this epic duel between these powerhouses. Kaido tells Luffy that he's taken down everyone who is said to be stronger than him, but now he's bored. That's info we've known since Dressrosa. I get that Luffy needs to hear it, but I'm praying for some more insight into Kaido's mindset rather than just bored, strong guy who wants to die. I need a bit more. Their fight continues, and it's clear that Kaido is enjoying himself. Until suddenly, Luffy is gone. A sneak attack? The longer the pause went on, it became clear Kaido was disappointed. What happened? Luffy had fallen off Onigashima. Kaido didn't even realize at first since he was so excited by their fight. Interesting way to reveal this, that did shock me. Round 1 goes to Kaido, but you know it isn't over yet.
And my friends, this is it. A change had to be made, and I apologize to my anime onlys, but this is where we part ways. By the time this comes out, I'm sure some of the chapters I'm going to discuss will have been adapted, but proceed at your own risk. I'm going to be talking about everything through chapter 1022. If you're bowing out, it has been a pleasure serving you in this way. Genuinely, making this series has changed my life, and I hope you were able to get some joy out of it. We'll meet again sometime in the future. Manga Master Race, all you who have been whispering in my ear since the very beginning, I'm here, and I'm your prisoner now. Please be gentle with me.
Kaido makes the announcement that Luffy has been defeated in an attempt to demoralize the Kozuki allies. No one is thrilled, but the Straw Hats don't buy Luffy's down for the count anyway. Meanwhile, Kanjuro finally gets to Momo and easily stabs through Kiku, but is butchered by Kinemon. Well, at least the dangers of, oh my god! Kinemon got wrecked by Kaido. He can't be dead, right? No, people don't die in this series. But this was pretty fucking brutal. I choose to live in denial until proven otherwise. After all, that mystery caretaker is still out there. Kaido hunts for the Little Lord, who knows that he's meant to keep living after something he read in Odin's journal. What could it be, and what does he hear that's driving him nuts after Luffy fell? It's time for the voice! We all know Momo's got that godly hearing power, just like a certain Gold King, but throughout this battle, he has been able to hear Luffy's voice. I'm assuming this works a lot like aura or energy in your typical shonen series, where you can sense other people's life force, except he can hear them. Kaido also seems to be a little listening creeper, so I'm sure Luffy will eventually hone his own abilities. Anyway, Momo knows that Luffy isn't dead, and despite being pursued by Bowser, he makes a speech to reinvigorate their side before vaulting off Onigashima ninja style. Momo is being used in an interesting and entertaining way throughout this raid that I wasn't expecting. I'm glad he's relevant and active throughout. With literally nothing else to do, Kaido begins to fight his son. Yamato once again says that he's gonna sail out with Luffy. Okay, I actually don't have any interest in that at all, and it's actually bothering me how he keeps bringing it up and how convinced he is of this without any relationship to Luffy or the crew. So, we witness some cloud-on-cloud cannibalism following Zeus's lame attempt to sacrifice himself for a woman who doesn't even like him. I can relate. Otama sees Big Mom as the insane gremlin woman she is, and tries to book it, which of course means she has to be killed, but luckily, Captain Kidd is here to help. This fight is gonna be badass. Turns out, we're not done with Zeus after all, since his soul has somehow bonded to the Climatect, and I actually like this quite a bit. We're so far down the weird rabbit hole at this point with Nami's powers, why not just give her a magic weather wand with a face? Now, ladies and gentlemen, Otama finally turns the tables, and the fight enters, God, I don't even know, its second to last stage. Maybe? This is when the Straw Hats finish the fight with the Tobbi Roppo. Jinbei's largely off-screen battle with Who's Who is mostly a glorified exposition dump that has me harder than a rock. This saber-toothed douchebag is an ex-CP9 agent who the audience doesn't know, but Jinbei should. He drops some fat info about being on the government ship when Shanks stole the Gum Gum fruit.
What the hell? Why did Shanks go through the trouble to steal from the government? How did he even know about this cargo? Why was a CP9 agent guarding a simple paramecia fruit? And why did Shanks wait so long to eat it? He wasn't planning for Luffy to eat it from the very beginning, right? Right? Why reveal this?
Oh, but it's not over. Remember the fire god Hyogoro wouldn't shut up about at the beginning? Well now, we've got a new sun god, Nika, to deal with. Who's Who heard tales of him while a prisoner. He was a figure slaves prayed to, hoping they'd bring them a smile. A smile. Joy Boy? He asked Jinbei about this because he led the Sun Pirates, and the Fishmen have a history with slavery. The craziest part of all this is that Jinbei appears to know this legend and kind of silences Who's Who after bringing it up.
What's going on? This is way too random to just be popping up now. The Fire God and Sun God have to be the same person. Nika could have been a past embodiment of Joy Boy. This, mixed with the exposition about the Gum Gum fruit, is the story screaming at us that Luffy is connected to all this. But what could it mean? Is this actually why Luffy is immune to fire? Did his previous incarnation have the Flare Flare fruit? What does that mean about Ace and Sabo? What is the significance of fire in this series?
Aww, baby geezer Chopper! Chopper continued to do awesome against Queen. Turns out, Caesar Clown of all people helped upgrade his monster form to last 30 minutes, but with risks. Becoming an old baby man. Unfortunately, Chopper doesn't finish Queen off. Instead, Sanji saves everyone from Parasparrow's, lick, arrows by beating Queen's head in a satisfying twirl maneuver. On his shoulder is a very poorly bandaged up Zoro, who Sanji had to take care of after Law dropped him off. Chopper tags out with Sanji to take care of Zoro. Let's wrap up the Tobbi Roppo showdowns. Frankie versus the Triceratops fight was a fun one, if a bit shallow compared to his last excellent brawl in Dressrosa. It's been far too long since Frankie had a real showcase, and while I liked this and the helicopter nonsense, I felt General Frankie deserved a bit better. Perhaps my favorite of all these showdowns comes from Robin and Brook versus Black Maria and Goons. This was a surprisingly delightful pairing. They have such a sad exchange in chapter 1020 that forced me to recognize the shared sadness in both characters. Also, coming from anime only into the manga, it's a fucking miracle to me that Brook didn't do his panty joke like a dozen times with these women. He's gonna do it in the anime, I just know it. Don't get me wrong, I like the joke, but it's best in moderation. This was such a refreshing look at his character, although I am a bit disappointed he plays second fiddle throughout this raid. With that said, move aside, pile of bones. It's best girl Nico Robin's time to shine. I absolutely loved this fight. Like I said earlier, Robin has never had a solo battle like this before, which is insane to think about. This is something that's always been lingering in the back of my mind that I've wanted to see, because these duels are when characters really get to shine, and I'm so glad after all this time, Robin is taking it to Black Maria with some incredible new moves. Not only does she use her training from her revolutionary days to bust out some fishman karate, but then she goes Demonio. Holy fucking hell. I don't care how weird it is, I love this for her, it's so fitting. She wins the day, and Brook gets his shots in too. All the Tobbi Roppo are down! The next stage of the battle begins, as the second-in-commands across all the organizations face off against new foes. Raizo versus Dickhead Ninja, Killer versus Hawkins, Cat Viper versus Perispero, Lick, and even Marco managed to hold off King and Queen long enough for the stars to take the stage. Sanji and Zoro versus Queen and King. Fun facts about these two villains. Queen was part of Judge's Mad Scientist group, properly named Mads, which is one more connection to Vegapunk. And King is from a race that lives atop the Red Line that can burst into flames. That's weird and all, but there's gotta be more to him than that, right? Otherwise, who really cares? Then of course, there's Kid-in-Law versus Big Mom, which honestly may be the fight I'm looking forward to seeing the most. Not to be left out for long, Luffy has recovered on the ground thanks to the Heart Pirates actually doing something and saving his ass. He stuffs himself full of a month's worth of food provided by Caribou and tells Momo he wants him to fly him back up to Onigashima using his dragon powers. Now, it's the moment we've all been waiting for. Momo asked Shinobu to turn him into an adult. I knew it. I knew it. The Dragon vs. Dragon showdown is coming. Who's the better dragon? The Devil Fruit or Vegapunk's experiment? Find out next time on One Piece First Impressions. Special shout out to my patrons for funding this complete lunacy. They're the type of cool people who strip completely naked before Thanksgiving dinner out of consideration for their precious clothes before chowing down at the trough. They're very respectful. And thank you. The one still watching this to the very end, you're a fucking nut. If you'd be so kind as to like and maybe even subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. But until the next time, I'll shut up.